Good morning, everybody. How's it going? Welcome to Drawing from Art History, episode 5. There we go. Good morning, everybody. So it's 9 a.m. here in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and I got my coffee. Today's mug is literally one I stole from my wife, which is the history of art. I thought it kind of made sense. Up to Jeff Koons there. Probably, is it cave painting? Cave painting to Jeff Koons. Pretty rad. I think my favorite, probably the Vermeer right there. Awesome, guys. Hopefully you guys have your sketchbooks. Today we're drawing Bernini's Salvator Mundi. Had another person planned for this, another artist, but then I saw this just come across my feed somehow, and I thought that researching this piece that I'd never seen before was really something that I thought would be kind of fun. Hopefully you guys can hear me. Let me set up the chat window here for you guys to ask questions to make sure there's anyone out there. Yeah, so what I thought was really cool about this, this is 2015, my wife Shayna and I were in Rome, and one of our models actually looked just like this guy. And that's what kind of flicked a switch in my head of like a memory from doing this drawing of him. And I thought that it would be great to learn more about his Salvator Mundi, which is actually a bust of Jesus versus a full sculpture of Jesus. And I believe it's his only bust that he's done of Jesus actually at all. I'll be right back. I don't know if you guys can hear my AC unit. It seems pretty loud. 1 second. Always forget to turn that off. Hey, Renola, how's it going? Good to see some familiar faces on here. Great, yeah. So let's get right to the drawing. So we're probably going to have about an hour-long session or so. And I'll throw myself as a little post-it note in the corner. I think that will be good right there. Awesome. So this is episode 5. This is pretty exciting. I've actually gone over a month of doing these. Let's see if we can get to, I think I saw a podcast the other day where someone had like 370 podcasts or something crazy. And I was like, I guess the consistency is what helps us get better at this, as well as learn a lot. I can't imagine learning about 300. Well, let's see, it's once a week, so it's 52 weeks a year. We're learning about 52 pieces of art essentially in a year that we can go visit and see and brag about in front of our friends. Like, oh, did you know that this was done by Bernini? And did you know that this is Bernini's only Christ bust that he's ever done? You know, usually, and you're like, Bernini, he usually did numerous portraits of popes, cardinals, and patrons. But the Salvator Mundi, it's believed to be his only known bust of Christ. Most of Bernini's religious works, they were large-scale altarpieces, and tombs and architectural ensembles. But this intimate marble work is especially rare. See, you can act like that with all your friends and buddies. I enjoy this stuff a lot. So let's get to the drawing, just as usual. So I'm using a toned paper today that's, I like it a little bit warmer. I want our drawing to look a little bit like, kind of like an old master's kind of sketch. Like, what would it be like if Da Vinci, or one of my favorites, whatever, drew this portrait of Jesus from the Bernini. Now, he wouldn't, because he was dead by the time Bernini was around. They didn't really cross timelines in their lives. But Bernini probably learned a lot from Da Vinci, likewise, or vice versa. I'm just getting into my morning coffee, guys. Okay, so I set up a layer here that is our paper, right? I set up a layer that is the image for you guys to see, so you guys can draw along with me. And then I have my drawing layer, which is layer 3. And I always get asked, The paper, this layer right here is a paper that I use. It's an end paper from an old art book that I had. I took a whole bunch of photos of different textures and art books just so that I could use them as backdrops. And so this is what I'll show you guys kind of I love the texture, and there's like splatters and such. And so I thought, what a great thing to do. What a great, to make the drawings look a little bit more realistic, right? So that's the goal, is to make our kind of digital drawings look a little bit more realistic, you know, as if they were kind of hand-drawn. Not faking it necessarily, but just having the same kind of qualities, because I think it's better to teach that way as well. Because I talk a lot about how the iPad kind of mimics what charcoal does, even though it doesn't have the tactile feel. I love charcoal drawing. If you guys are interested in charcoal drawing, I have a ton of charcoal drawing and studies for beginners on my channel. Okay, so that's where the end paper is. I'm gonna grab my roll of tape. I put the tape roll on my iPad so that I don't touch it with my hand, and I don't love those gloves. 1 second. Hey Kim, how's it going? Yeah, so I use this stuff right here. It's just a tape roll, and I put it on the iPad so that I can get above it and rest my hand on something that isn't on the actual iPad. I've noticed that this tends to work the best. Awesome. So let's get started. How do we get started usually? Well, I use a system that I call the CAM method, C-A-M. And what that stands for is compose, anchor, and then measure out. And I have a lot of videos on the channel here for that. And you guys that have been coming to these sessions every week are probably sick of hearing about the CAM's method. Cool. So again, we're using my eraser here. So I was doing a little logo for myself, which was kind of fun. So I was using this monoline. Now I'm going to switch to Derwent pencil for the eraser, as well as Derwent pencil for our, for our drawing. So see the sketching, it's under sketching, Derwent. And you don't have to mess with any of these settings at all, but just use Derwent. And I'm just going to go with a black as a color for this, so it looks a little bit more charcoal. Oh, I'm sorry, Kim. Kim's tired after work. Where do you work, Kim? Great. So we're going to set up our new layer. Oops. Get rid of that layer. Go to this layer, which is our layer 3. And we're going to start composing. Now, I always set my, this is a size measurement right here of the size of the brush. And then this right here is our opacity. So I'm going to set our opacity to about 40 to 50%. Oh, thanks, Renola. And we want to compose the Salvator Mundi here on our page. So how do we do that? So we want to think of the top of the head so that it kind of mimics the top of the head over here. And hopefully you guys can see my cursor. That's the one big kind of downfall I've noticed about using the iPad, is that it's hard to see where I'm actually drawing. Metal milling, wow. I can imagine you being tired after doing that. This comes over. I am never going to complain about being tired, because I'm super, super fortunate to be able to do this for a living. And I appreciate you being here, especially after work. Okay, so just thinking about the rhythms of the beard here. I don't know if you can see I'm drawing on the actual sketch. Trying to get these kind of long, straight, angular lines. That's what I'm looking for right now. It's this way of simplifying and composing him next to each other, right? I think maybe next week we'll do a barg drawing, or I might do a barg drawing lesson coming up. I just posted a video on painting transparent colors, transparent transparent oil colors that I got from Williamsburg. Definitely check that video out if you can. But let me erase these guys over here. I don't want them to get in your way. I apologize. Yeah, so these transparent colors and how when you add white to a transparent color, it's really interesting what happens. I use the term almost not a clickbait title for the video, but it actually unlocks like the brightness and the electricity of the color by just adding a little bit of titanium white. Something that looks like it would be like pea soup or something, or baby food, green, whatever, like has this brilliant color hidden within the transparency. I love it. Just want to make sure I'm on my layer 3. Great. So coming in, so once we get kind of this idea of our large, long lines in here of composing, so that we know that that thrust of that neck is really beautiful. The one thing that I thought was really interesting about this sculpture is if you look up the entire sculpture, I'm not in love with how he did the body and the drapery. It's a little excessive, just in my personal opinion. But still, I love the flowiness of the rhythms that he has within the face. So I thought it was really cool. And again, it was a lesser known piece for me for some reason. I had never seen this in person, and it's really interesting. I'm actually wondering if it's even in Rome, because when Bernini died, we add a lot of art history in here because we want to learn about the piece as we sketch, right? So Bernini actually, when Bernini died, he gifted the sculpture to, have you guys ever heard of the Queen Christine of Sweden at all? So she has a really interesting history with art history. She was fascinating. She was in the 17th century, right? So in Rome, she lived in Rome. Now she was the queen of Sweden, but she abdicated her throne and converted to Catholicism. And then she moved to Rome and basically became a patron of the arts and helped support all of these painters. And she's a fascinating figure. I would love to read, actually I might go and read a book about her. But so she received this sculpture upon Bernini's death. Super interesting. For that, I'm talking a lot. For some reason, I'm talking really fast and getting to my coffee. So we have him kind of composed on here, right? Now we want to think of what is our anchor point of this drawing going to be. And if you guys, I feel like I say things a lot, and I feel like I'm going to bore the audience that has been here before. But the anchor point for me within the face is in the eyes. I love painting eyes and using them because they're not quite in the center of the head, but they're something that is central. They're a large shape, a flat shape in the beginning that we can use to measure north and south from. And once we lock those in, like we lock them in, we decide where they're going to be. Everything else can flow around those areas as long as we have our anchor point, right? Sometimes people have their eyes and the eyes kind of float around the head as they work. But if we lock that in, that anchor point, it's so much more helpful for us. And so let's lock in what we think where his eyes, the orbital cavity would be. So let's think of the brow ridge and the top of the eyes, the plane that comes across here. Now, what's really interesting also is that when people measure sometimes on the face, they use straight lines across the face. And that's not necessarily the best idea because our head is a cylinder, right? So we want to think about how things curve over. A lot of times I hear criticism and whatever, and constructive criticisms that some people have of people's art, and they're like, well, that doesn't line up straight across from the side of the face in like someone's doing a 3/4 view or something. And makes sense because it wouldn't, because it's let me get rid of that little sketch. It wouldn't because it's on a curved line and not a straight line. So, and also everyone's face is not symmetrical. What I think is interesting about sculpture, though, I think that sometimes artists tend to make things a little bit more symmetrical within their sculpture. Hey, Katie from Georgia. Great to have you on here. Thanks for stopping in. Hey, Mariah, how's it going? I'm going to butcher everybody's name. I know Susan, that's an easy name. Kim's an easy name. Raynola, I hope I say that correct. Where's everybody coming in from? Katie's from Georgia. My son goes to school in Georgia. He's at SCAD, Savannah College of Art and Design. Great school. It comes up. I've actually been teaching there a little bit, which is fun. Okay, so let's get those eyes in there just like we were talking about. I haven't lost concentration. I can multitask a little bit. So thinking about where our eyes are, this side of the orbital cavity. And I always think of the Salvator Mundi as the Da Vinci painting that went up for, did it go up for auction or just was discovered? And so this is not Da Vinci's version. This is, which actually would be fun to draw. Maybe we'll draw that. Did you guys hear there's actually going to be a huge Raphael show that's being put together? I think it's going to, I'm not sure if it's the Met or if it's going to be in London at the National Gallery. National Gallery is like one of the best museums ever. I love that place. I love visiting that place. They have that Van Dyck portrait, which I'm also going to be drawing here because I love that Van Dyck portrait. I think he did that portrait when he was only 21 years old too. Pretty incredible. So we got our eyes in here, right? Our orbital cavities. Thinking. Now I'm not thinking about the eyeball within the orbital cavities yet. This is our flat two-dimensional space shape that we're going to alter a little bit as we start to see things better. We're going to start to see the actual curves of everything and how it works. Right now we're kind of just gesturing it in. Right now I'm going to measure from here to here. If you guys can see my cursor, I apologize that it might be small. I get complaints about that. I got a complaint today on my YouTube, which I thought was great, was I flicked my brush too much. And someone was upset about that, which I thought was, I was like, well, thank you so much for the constructive comment. I appreciate you took the time to do that. Actually, on here on YouTube, all the comments that are made on the videos help the algorithm, even if it's negative. So I'm like thankful for every comment. Hey, Diana, how's it going? Okay, so we got New York. Susan's from New York. Mariah's in Florida. Anyone that's going to be in New York, I'm going to be doing for the Patreon people, and I guess you guys, if you guys hear this, I'm going to be in New York in October, and we're going to do a Patreon group meetup at the Met. My friend Walter is going to be there. It might just be Walter and I. But we're going to just go check out some of my favorite works in the Met and just hang out. It'd be a lot of fun. I'm going in there. I'm actually doing a lecture. Not a lecture. It's like I'm on a panel discussion about fighting anti-Semitism through art. And there's a couple of photographers. So kind of measuring out where the bottom part of the nose is, the underplane. I always say underplane of the nose is where the shadow and the light hit. I simplify that shape, right? There's a cast shadow that comes forward, and then we start to get into the mouth. I'm not worried about that quite yet. I'm going to then come up from, get these pop-up windows, up from the eyes now and say, okay, the nose looks okay. That looks decent. I'm going to come up to the forehead and judge across there. That looks okay. How's to the top of the head? So this is where I get to the part of the measure out part of the cam. So we compose, and now we anchor, and then we measure out. So Diana, I know you're in Maine. How's it going? It's been a while. Kim is, sketching is a good way to spend time. Yeah, definitely. You can print these out. If you do a screenshot, the reference will be available on the Patreon page, actually for free. If you just join the Patreon page as a member, and you can join for free. It's essentially a mailing list for me that is fun, but I post on Patreon a lot. I don't know if I post too much. I think at least once a day, sometimes twice a day. I have a lot to share because the name of this channel is My Life in Art, and being a painter, I'm so It's funny, I was talking to my wife the other day, like we both are always working. And so we're always like devouring content, and the content that I devour, I want to share. So that's what Patreon's become, kind of it's a resource for myself because I have everything that I've seen that I've been inspired by. Like I posted about Dan Green on there. I posted my first video that I saw about the Van Dyke Z by my friend Mark D'Alessio, who's an amazing painter, and he's on there. And so even it's not just my content, it's content that I find that I've kind of thought was useful for the audience. Anyway, I'm missing up. Hey, Alex, how's it going? Alex is in Brazil. That's amazing. I've been to Brazil. I've been to Fortaleza. I taught a drawing class there. Really beautiful, beautiful country. Coming up here to see where the forehead is. I see a little bit of a shadow through here. Let's put a little line there. I'm putting notes in as I work, these kind of long lines for the form, for the large masses. I'm sorry, not for the form. Waiting for the coffee to kick in. But these long lines are helping me to find where these smaller forms are going to be, where they're going to sit. And that way we also, even though we're realist painters or draftsmen, we want to hold on to this idea of the energy of the expression of the actual object that we're painting. And so these long lines help to give me a little bit more energy to what it is I'm sketching. So we got Renola's in Washington and New Mexico. Oh wait, she's in Utah, sorry. Utah, but also in Washington and New Mexico. New Mexico is beautiful. I moved out here in 2007 from Brooklyn, New York. Kind of a little bit of culture shift, but I think it's great. I love being out here, luckily, before COVID hit. So we have a backyard, and we bought a little mini like swim spa during COVID. We made pretty much just and renovated the house. I'm gonna up my thing here. Okay, looks good. We got Kim is in Sweden. What's a before at the Hebrew Academy? Susan saying understood sub art teacher. Oh, you're a substitute teacher. Okay, so I'm really bad at reading comments while sketching, but you guys definitely comment. Thinking about where the mouth is, right? So if this flows, if this is the space from the tip of the nose over here, which is really nice, and then we kind of measure across, we have this shape. So we have that kind of elastic X shape that is the top of the wing of the nostril to the nasal labial fold, right? To the bottom of the corner of the mouth. Now this isn't a human, and it's kind of mannered a little bit, which means that it's not super, super realistic. So the elastic X, we're going to alter that just a little bit. And that X is basically the corner of the eyes. And if you guys can see my cursor, let me see if I can make my cursor bigger. Yeah, from there to there, to there, to there. And it's an X that cuts through the shape, but it changes, right? It's almost like an hourglass shape that changes as the head rotates from when you have a straight on view to a profile to a 3/4. It just shifts, which is really interesting to me because I think of portrait painting can become a lot easier for you when you start to see the shapes that are common in most faces. And so you kind of can grab those common shapes and use those, but find the subtlety between them that are used for the individual. I'm going to come in here and I'm just going to shade in the dark under his chin and kind of think about this whole shape in here being darker. And maybe over the head too. And through here. Thinking just kind of painterly a little bit about where the shading is. Give it a little bit more dynamicism. Words. thinking about this underplane here and the beard. So Kim's in Sweden. That's amazing. I've never been to Sweden. I want to come visit Sweden. It's supposed to be beautiful. I've heard some great things. Closest I've gotten to any Nordic countries is Iceland, which is, I definitely recommend Iceland for folks. Alabama. I've been to Alabama and taught in Birmingham. Been really lucky to travel a lot as a painter. There's a point where if someone just messaged me and said, hey, I'd like you to teach a workshop out in Birmingham, I was like, okay, I'm doing it. Had less responsibility back then, but been all over Portugal, Spain. We still teach a lot in Italy, but in Australia, we've taught in Australia a few times. Again, Iceland, I taught in Reykjavik in Iceland. I love travel. There's a little space here, just kind of sketching around. Let's think about what's going on with the beard though, and how this comes down. I'm going to come in, I'm also going to shape out a little bit of the mouth, like we kind of left it a little bit undone here. This comes up and over. I love this part right here. It forces that part of the beard forward. Oh, and I taught in Rochester. That's right, Lori. Great painting, by the way, of your daughter. Very cool. Check out Lori's stuff on Facebook. Lori Magdalena. Rochester has a special place in my heart. My ex-wife used to live right outside of Rochester. And so Rochester, it was cool. We stayed in Pittsford, really beautiful area by the water when I taught out there. It was fun. As a person who constantly draws, these lines can be incredibly helpful. Yeah, absolutely, Diana. Oh, Cape Town, South Africa. I've been to Cape Town. We are actually hoping to teach in South Africa again soon. I think my friend Jeremy's there right now, Jeremy Lipking. Or at least he just posted a painting from Stellenbosch. Stellenbosch is amazing. It's essentially it's a college town, right? So it's also the wine country of South Africa. I just remember the food being some of the best food I've ever eaten in my life, and also the most affordable food. It was like, I think we got, I tell this story all the time. My wife and I went to a place for lunch, and we bought a steak. We both had steak dinners or steak lunches. They brought out the type of meat, the cut of the meat, that we could look at the actual, like the cut of the beef that we wanted or whatever. And then we got a bottle of wine, and this is at lunch. And I think the total was like $40 with tip. South Jersey. Right on. So I grew up in South Jersey. So I didn't have to visit there. I was forced to live there. Not really. Which is why I'm a big Philadelphia Eagles fan. Go Birds. Yeah, I grew up in a town, if you know South Jersey, I grew up in Medford, New Jersey. I went to Shawnee High School. Great place to grow up. Cool. So thinking about the mouth and then moving, I love these kind of rhythms also, right? Even just kind of just scruffing them in, thinking about how they rotate a little bit, just very loosely. So thinking about these long, how does this kind of flow into here, composing. Going to knock in this dark. What is important for the sketch? I love this dark because it really anchors the head. I'm going to take my opacity down to like 9 and just glaze over our drawing here. Give it a little bit of an overall value tonality. I'm going to get a little bit more. That's better. I'm going to come in, think about this edge here. I love the light of the marble up against the dark. And I'm using transparency to knock in some of these areas that are dark instead of finding the value through the color wheel. That way we can kind of control a little bit. And think of it, you can't just grab one charcoal that's a value 5 or so. So that's what I tend to do. Oop, that's my paper towel roll clicking. Hope you guys can hear me okay. South Jersey, that's why folks went to shows, designed some shows there. But you have to brush pines. Yeah, I grew up near the, not near the shore really, but we call it the shore, not the beach in South Jersey. But yeah, my friends all had houses at LBI, Long Beach Island. And I would just tag along with those guys. And Jersey Shore, not seaside, which we call, which is where everybody from New York would go. I think that's where they filmed the Jersey Shore. Oops. Thinking about what's going on here. Take down some of the opacity. What's great is that we can really change a lot of what's going on here. So let's get into the eye a little bit. I'm actually going to use the eraser now and soften everything up. So I put a value in, but I don't love my lines. I want to use this as a basis, this sketch here. Get rid of some of these lines with the eraser to work on top of. This is kind of my blueprint here now. I don't love how dark that is. Or in there. Even the top of the head. This is helping to kind of unify our sketch a little bit. Awesome. So let's go into the eyes. Let's see. I grew up in Wenua, south of, oh, okay. I actually don't know that town. I have a table at my first art fair this September. Any tips? Yeah, art fairs are great. Definitely give out, I don't know if like postcards are great leave behinds for folks. Yeah, stickers are awesome. My son's doing a lot of art table stuff in New York, and he's selling prints. He has framed ones, unframed, of some of his landscapes and his pieces. He's doing mostly digital stuff, but he makes pretty good money off of doing that stuff. Getting this kind of movement of the ball of the eye, we want to really think about that through here. And then this underplane right here through there. And we're just kind of roughing it in right now to that edge. Thinking about that curve. I don't know if you guys can see the eye. I want to make sure you guys know where I'm sketching, how this pulls out into that muscle. Now he has a really kind of hard edge line here in the sculpture where it would be a little bit more of a softer, see how I'm kind of curving over that edge? Probably really small, sorry, my cursor. But if it was a human, it would be just a little bit more curved. Now, he's not human, he's the Son of God, so he can have any edge that he wants, right? This comes down, find the bridge of the nose. We can start to shore up our sketch a little bit. This cuts across. Now we think about how this kind of comes in. What's going on with the far eye here? This looks good. I love this edge condition here where the edge shifts a little bit. Let's figure out what's going on with the mouth. This insertion right through there. We have this upper lip. I don't know if you guys can see that. It comes into the lower lip, which pillows forward. This pillows forward as well. And this part comes in. And this is all cast shadow. We'll shore up what's going on here with this edge. That looks good. We have this really cool movement through here for the form. Let's see, what did Kathy or Diana say? Are you basically looking for the dark? I am looking for the dark values and how they kind of interact with one another. Mostly the shapes first, and then I'm going to come in and start to chisel out what our darks are going to be. I'm going to go in and also really, really be thick with the outside edges right now with the line. And I use a lot of straight lines to draw. If you guys haven't noticed, it's because it's just easier to have them plot the spaces. There's definite end and a finish line to all these little subtle shifts in the form. It's easier to do them as straight lines because they can be more accurate. Which, it's funny, when I do these lives, it really helps me to think of new videos to make for the channel that might be useful. Like, why do artists use straight lines to draw in the beginning versus curved lines? And that's why. It's just easier to block in large shapes, right? Those expressive lines in the beginning, we have those straight lines and then we can throw the curved lines on top of them. See if there's any more questions at all. So just developing, kind of thinking about what is the large shapes, where does this come in, this part of the beard? Where do the curls kind of start down here? Down into here, and then this is lighter through here. This shape kind of looks like a shoe. And so we're kind of, we call it creaturizing, where we're looking at these shapes, thinking about how they look like different things that are something familiar to ourselves. Like this shadow shape right here looks like a beetle to me. You know, it's got this kind of long shape in through here. And let's just come in and simplify that shape. Hey BA, how's it going? Think about this curve. Oops. My hand touched the screen. And then we're just measuring down as we go to see where these shapes are, where this shape is, where this is where the beard goes kind of into the shadow shape. And we can keep that kind of loose right now, right? Yeah, the beetle. Like what's going on down here? His hair's a little excessive. Come on, Bernini. But I love kind of these ideas of how these the forms kind of flow in and out of one another. It's really, really beautiful. And so it's interesting. So this, we'll talk a little bit about the history. So he carved this around 1679 to 1680, and that's actually towards the end of his life. And so a lot of people think that this was kind of a spiritual expression for himself in his last years. It wasn't a commission at all. He did it for himself, and he kept this in his own possession, until his death. So it was a personal piece for him. And back then I think a lot of sculptors needed to pay the bills and get commissions and get fame. But towards the end of his life, he wanted to do this piece. And it kind of, I could see it being like this idea that I myself am not a very religious person, but I can imagine that if you were to draw someone really important in your religion, whether it be, not Allah, of course, but drawing Jesus, it would be kind of a really cool, meditative, almost devotional object. Spending your time to do this piece, you could have a really, so I get why there's all these paintings of Jesus, Putting myself in the mindset of Bernini here. Just really trying to develop the structure, keeping it loose. Thinking about the sternocleidomastoid mastoid that he has here, which is this muscle that starts in your sternum, stretches out behind your jaw and your ear, your mastoid, sternocleidomastoid mastoid. I love it. My favorite word to say in art. I don't love getting into like Latin terms when we talk anatomy, because this is drawing. It's kind of what you see and what you perceive is important on the surface, but it's also important to understand what's underneath it. But I don't think it's important to know the name of what's underneath it. For me, I know some people that love the deep dive into actually having cadavers opened and drawing from that. That's just next level stuff. I'm lazy. I just want to make a great picture that has some type of an emotional impact rather than straight up anatomy. Philippa, sorry I missed this morning. Try to enjoy this later. Yeah, so these are recorded and I put them on my channel, like right after the session. These are available, and this is episode 5, which I think is pretty cool. If you guys have any suggestions on who I should draw next or delve into, actually it's funny, maybe Vermeer next week, or Zorn, or Rembrandt. I'm kind of holding off on some of my favorites. And doing some pieces. This is a piece that I'd never seen before, so it's great to learn about it. Again, yeah, this was a gift to the Queen of Sweden. Pretty awesome. These are really interesting. So they say that this bust actually really portrays Jesus with a gentle, compassionate, expressive tone rather than a stern and triumphant face, which we see many times in the depictions at this time period in the 17th century. So I guess it's really amazing that the experts say that it helped. It was Bernini really flexing his idea that he could sculpt something that was of divine majesty, but with a human tenderness in marble, which I think is really beautiful. Marble to me just has such a coldness to it when you touch it. And so I love that you would paint something kind of warm and tender, but have it actually be kind of cold. This cuts across this brow ridge here. Kind of lose that edge. Definitely Vermeer. Yeah, right? What I love about drawing sculpture is just the solidity of what it is. It makes it already almost formful. And I haven't really even delved into the small senses of the form yet. Still, it's a little bit darker here. Just really developing just still the shadow shapes and the movements, not the subtleties in between shapes. Might be a 2-hour session today because I'm having a blast drawing. And I got nowhere to go today. I had to cut one session short because I had a tattoo appointment to receive a tattoo from my buddy Rudy, who's an amazing tattoo artist. I just was there yesterday for 5 hours. Shading in my arm is very painful. Got the whole back shaded in. Good times. It was fun. The best thing here's a tattoo tip. Just find a tattooer that you get along with really well, and just all we do is just shoot the shit and talk about art and gossip. Totally kidding. Coming in here, this gets a little bit, just unifying that. The cast shadow. Let's see, Raynola says, yes to all that you have listed. I would love for you to take a deep dive into the little known masters, those who are not commercially known, but that's a great idea. I did Kath Kollwitz. I guess she's kind of really well known, but I think she's kind of definitely underrated. And I think that I definitely want to include more female artists on here as well. They definitely do not get their due in art history. So maybe some Artemisia Gentileschi, I think would be great. Just kind of softening up this edge here while we're talking. Maybe, Brunelleschi. I don't know if he's that well known, Brunelleschi. I don't know if, I gotta find sculptures by him, because most of his stuff is, but you're right. I should do artists that aren't named after Ninja Turtles. Is that what you're saying? If you're named after a Ninja Turtle, just kind of overall sketching here, unifying an area. Then I'm probably going to lighten later. Bertha Wegman. I have to look her stuff up. I actually don't know her. I think of Wegman, I think of was it the dogs? She didn't do the dogs. That was just this guy Wegman, right? Who did the sculptures or the photography. Weren't they all like chocolate labs? Now going into some of once we get this idea of our structure, we can start to clean up our sketch a little bit more and get more into the subtlety, right? This is so broad right now. Now we can start to think about the detail stuff. Come in here, think about the nose shape. The eye structure. Oh, Diana said she loves Rudy. Rudy's so fun. He takes a lot of our workshops as well. He's a really great painter. He's been learning a ton. And we have a workshop coming up here in Albuquerque, actually. Actually, since I don't get sponsored by anybody, I'm going to tell you guys about my upcoming workshops on here. You can click away. But I'm teaching in Denton, Ohio, actually Fort Worth. the guys I'm teaching with, usually I teach with them in Denton, Texas. But now it's going to be in Fort Worth, and that's actually on it's really coming up. I think it's the 5th of September. We just set this up really last minute. And put in the comment section if you, or hit me up on the Patreon page or email. My email is just studio@davidkasson.com or david@kasson.com for stuff. But there's I'll have a link to my workshops in the description below that's updated. It's a Google Doc, so I update it fairly often. So I'm gonna do an overall wash over the whole thing right now. Oh, Cecilia Bow is amazing. I love her stuff. Light through hair. Okay, definitely. I'm gonna check her out. Okay, so we're gonna go with 30%, but super. And I want to get a really dark around the outside edges to really build up that sense of. Oops, I double tapped the screen. Did it go to eraser? No. I was having this issue with the iPad with the Procreate with Procreate, where it would switch me to an eraser without me knowing. It was really weird. It would just like randomly, if I touched the screen, and I figured out what it was. It was a gesture thing. If I touched the screen with like 2.5 fingers, it would change on me. It kept doing it, and then I finally was able to turn that off. I'm still learning about these materials here as well. Like kind of fool around a little bit with painting with color on here too. Really darkening in a unified way, not caring about what's going on in the portrait yet, because I know I can come back in with an eraser and reshape out that stuff. So, but I really want a fluid dark behind his head. So I'm going into the drawing, which is what we do with I do with a paper towel usually when I'm drawing. I'm going to change the opacity. Oops, I'll grab that instead. And I'm going to go over all the lights now in the drawing. So we're going to have it look like the sketch is emerging out of the dark, which is going to be really beautiful. Beautiful sense of Baroque lighting here on this Baroque sculpture. And I'm not afraid to lose anything because I can draw it back. How are we doing on time here? We're almost to an hour. Charles Fall. Oh, I love Charles Fall. He's amazing. His book was one of my favorite books growing up as an artist. He has a book on Watson Guptill. Everyone should look at Charles Fall. See, I know him as Chuck Fall because my teachers used to call him Chuck. Like he was a student around the same time as some of my teachers at the Art Students League, and they all referred to him as Chuck. And he dealt with some problems in his career, self-inflicted stuff. But then he got sober, and his stuff was incredible. The stuff in Santa Fe was awesome. I think I was at Gerald Peters' gallery, and that same show was also in New York too, I believe. A couple of those pieces right before he passed away, unfortunately. But definitely, I got the catalog from that show. It's amazing. I can go off forever about Charles Fall. Thinking about this edge through here, kind of just coloring, right? That's all this is. Just shading in. As I'm drawing, I'm looking across a lot, and I'm like, okay, well, this needs to get a little bit more shadowing through here. Or, I don't know if I want, we're making artistic decisions as we go too. I don't know if I want to have, well, let's get a little bit of that eye on the far side here. I'm using my paper towel roll to be able to sketch a little bit smaller in. This comes up and around. I kind of want this to be slightly a lost edge. The tip of the nose goes up. Hopefully you guys can see. I'm going to zoom in a little bit more. Oops. When I zoom in, I can't see the reference. That comes over. I'm going to put the reference on the screen, I think, for myself. Yeah. Because I can see where I can fix everything. Just going with the eraser, there's more space in between that part of the nose. Hopefully you guys can see that compared to my sketch. It's called drawing from art history, not drawing well from art history. Just saying. It's a lot of pressure drawing for everybody. Make sure it's right. And I'm just doing my best. I think just the experience of getting to know these pieces on a more, I would say like more just a intimate kind of way, where sketching them, even if they're not the greatest sketches, I still learn a ton. Kind of drawing in the footsteps of these guys, right? I'm actually going to put I'm going to go big on the screen here so I can see things even better rather than on the screen. You guys don't know what I mean by that. The iPad. Yeah, because I can really zoom in on my laptop here. Hey Jeff, how's it going? That's happened to me. Oh yeah. Joining late after work from The Hague. That's awesome. Hey, thanks so much. So I'm going to zoom in so you guys can kind of see what my thought process is here. I think it's kind of, we're going to come in and kind of think about, I'm using the eraser now, reshaping the areas that I have. That looks pretty good. This comes into the top part of the lip. This comes in, and we have, this is all pretty cool, like mustache, beard type stuff. There's a wedge shape here. And I'm going to have the reference available on the Patreon. Sounds so fancy. Page. I'm going to cut down my opacity here, 34%. That's good. I'm going to glaze over these areas a little darker, but right now, since I want to find them, they're going to be a little bit lighter. That's my thought process. There's a light here that like falls off into this shape. Hope you guys can see. Okay. This is that top part of the lip. If I zoom in, I think you guys can see my cursor a little bit better. So we're at an hour. Let's try to go, I'm working on, what do I have going on today? I just have to work out. I'm going to jump on our bike. We have a Peloton bike. My wife's obsessed with Peloton. We're friends with some of the instructors actually, which is pretty cool. Just randomly through friends, we've gotten to. And so we were going to, and I was thinking about the sculptural quality of, okay, so this comes pillows forward, it gets dark, and then we have this little bit right here. So once we have our abstraction, our shapes that are kind of fitting together, I think this can come in a little bit more. I don't know if you guys can see my face. I'm making a pirate face, which is, I'm squinting. This comes down and over. Just going to kind of leave that because I don't know how important this is right now. I'm going to really focus in on the face rather than the full curls of the beard, which are really kind of majestic in a way. This all gets a little lighter. There's rhythms that happen within through here. This is rhythms. When I say rhythms, they're just kind of the sculptural curls of what's going on and then how they meet up with areas through here really beautifully. And then we kind of filter up through this part of the cheek, right? Where the zygomatic arch right here, the cheekbone, meets in. to this hollow spot right here where there is no bone. Just studying Bernini for form is just so enlightening. It really is. Okay, now I'm going to actually put my pencil in here. I'm going to just glaze over some areas, this far side of his cheek. Now I kind of feel like it's drawn in place better. Come in and just simplify what's going on. I don't love rendering that out so much, so because I want to have the drawing now we're drawing from the piece, but we're making artistic decisions as we go of how can we make the light emerge on our sketch and make our decision of our drawing, which is different than the sculptural decisions that Bernini made. So in here, we have our anchor points for our eyes, but the subtlety of this line, it comes up to here and then dips down. I'm going to come in with the eraser also, the eraser side to come in, and there's such a beautiful, beautiful subtlety here. How do we give our drawing humanity? Just like the sculpture has the humanity. That's the trick. That's the hard part. And then we have this kind of movement of shadow through here. This is when everyone's tuned out. They're like, when I start to really think about sketching, I think that's when my voice gets lower. My thoughts get more considered. That's usually when I'm demoing for a workshop. The students can't hear me at all because I'm facing the other direction, looking at the model, painting from life, and then I'm sure Diana's witnessed that in one of the workshops she's taken where I'm hard to understand and I start mumbling. Thinking about this shadow, you guys can't see, I'm using my screen to draw from the Apple screen, not on the iPad, the MacBook Pro. I love this movement through here, this shadow. Get a little bit more juice, opacity to the stroke. Yeah, that's better. I'm getting into the eye here, so I'll zoom. Well, I can't see that far when it's zoomed in. I want to see it still in context to everything else. This loops over. There's this really beautiful pinching of that orbital cavity. I'm just going to rotate. Just get a little better of an angle there. Now this is something I don't want to forget, is that this highlight here is so bright. Just right on there. Definitely over and also here and right here. Here's our comparison. Really trying to get the main structure of our sketch. Now this gets a little lighter through here. This light follows up this edge. I'm actually going to come in and think about that. You see where my lines are very basic in the beginning. And then we start to think about how do we shape them to be more of what we see. This pulls this light pattern through here along that side of the face. Feel free to ask any questions, guys. I don't know if I've seen any in a good 10 minutes, unless I'm missing them. In the eye here, this gets a little bit lighter. this edge too. We don't really have that edge because it gets subtle. I'm going to actually make everything just a little bit more subtle with, again, with a light wash over everything to lighten it just gently on the light side of the face. If you guys know any other interesting facts about this sculpture, I see a little bit of light through here as well. Doing this, right, sending the drawing into this small window right here is really amazing for organizing our values. Seeing something from far away. So some artists, when they have a mirror in their studio, they look at their artwork from the mirror because it doubles the space from that they get to look back at a drawing. And so in here I can see that the back of the head needs to be lighter, obviously. I don't have, and I can even draw on here. I'm using the eraser. I can come in and say, okay, well, what about this shape? What about this shape? And I can squint at this space where I have a lot of distance. So again, the iPad is really useful in learning how to sketch. Like that line made a big difference. I don't love how light I went, but just this idea of sneaking up on it a little bit more when it's a small postage stamp size is really great. Hey Rodney, good morning. This right here, this light. And again, so this idea, most people don't think that you can draw on such a small scale with the iPad. You can, which is actually very, very useful to see. And I can tell that I could pull in, if I squint now and I compare, I know that the light under his chin is way too dark, right? So we can lighten all of our values to match what our reference is. If we want to do that, then I do, because I think that was definitely too dark. Now if I squint, I can see that that eye is also too dark on that far side, like in through here. Also looks a little droopy. So I want it to be kind of a middle tone value that we kind of lose on that side of the face. And we can slowly get closer to our subject. And as we do here, again, still thinking broadly, I tend to move in and out between thinking about the sketch very broad, like we are here, and getting into the sketch, we're thinking about these shapes in a more specific way. Like I can tell that I don't love how dark these lines are for the back of the hair. But I do love that I can see that this shadow, there should be a shadow here that's a little bit better. Or what's going on with the curve. Now that we have kind of placement with straight lines, we can think a little bit about the dynamicism, the dynamics of these curves and how beautiful they are within the sculpture. I think they're a big part of it. You guys are hearing that? That's I have a screen, I don't know if you guys can see, over top of my iPad. That is it's called a Paperlight screen. And it, why am I sideways? Oh, my whole iPad went sideways. Derp. So we can kind of sit and start to develop our values a little bit stronger here. Thinking about the hair, this is one contour. This is another contour that's developing from the outside atmosphere of our sketch. And that should be just a little lighter. Oops, that's fine. I think that's okay. And then I love this beautiful sweep through here. I gotta tell you, I'm getting so much better at drawing. I know it doesn't look like it here. There's a lot to control, but I'm learning a lot by sketching these. And it's awesome that you guys are here as well. I appreciate it. funny how I started my YouTube channel up again in December of last year. So it's been almost 9 months of doing the channel, and I've done all of the things I wish I had done. I put off for so long doing color studies because I have this painting to do and I have this commission and I got to finish this for this exhibition, and having the YouTube channel, it's kind of forcing me to do videos that I've been wanting to do for a while, where I do studies of the color studies, right, for these transparent colors. I'm learning more about, I never really did color studies for blues. So I got to do studies for blues. I got to do studies for the different black color paints that I use and why I choose them. So my palette's becoming more understood by doing the YouTube channel. And so there's the idea that I get to share that information with everybody on here. It's pretty incredible. And even here, an excuse for me to learn more about this sculpture is pretty incredible. Oh, Diana says, so amazing how solid the drawing is. It looks like you could reach into... Oh, thanks a lot. I appreciate that. That's like the biggest compliment, is the idea that when we draw, we want to get atmosphere around the form, right? So I think, I don't know if I've probably mentioned this in class, Diana, that I want you guys to think about the drawing or painting having enough atmosphere around where you can reach your hand into the painting and touch the back of the head of the subject. That's what we want to think about. We want to paint not just the subject and the mass that's in front of us, but also the air around that subject, right? I think it's really important to have them sit in space. And you just said that. My drawing did that. I appreciate that. Not bad for, what have we been going here now for? It's funny, I have the reference zoomed in on my screen, so I can't see the screen here. 1 hour and 12 minutes. I gotta stretch. Have your coffee. So I'm gonna stretch for a second. Oh, someone's asking for what is a good tablet for drawing. The iPad is amazing. I just recently did this. I don't know. I got this weird white line on here. Did I do that by accident? Whatever. I recently got a Wacom tablet to try out. I haven't tried it out yet. They mailed me a Wacom like travel tablet thing to play around with, and I haven't played with it yet. So I will let you guys know about that in a little bit. I think I'm gonna have to charge it up and sign in and do all this stuff that I've been lazy about. I haven't been lazy. I actually just finished wrapping up on Monday all my paintings to go to the show I'm going to be in Austin. All the cowboy western paintings I've been doing that I've been posting videos about. And so that I did 7 pieces. Now they're not giant. They're only about 16 inches at the highest. And those went out to Austin on Monday, and all framed and everything. And I've been editing all the photos I took of all the paintings before they left, like fixing the corners and everything. And that's what I've been up to. And I have this commission I'm working on. You guys would all know this. On the Patreon, I share everything I do as I do it, essentially. I'm working on a really great portrait commission of an amazing woman from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, Gloria. And you guys have probably seen on the videos, I have pictures of her hands. I've been painting her hands. And so the hand paintings are in that portrait commission. And then I just got a commission to do a Western piece, a big Western piece, about 40 by 30 inch Western piece, which I'm excited to do. Cowboys on horseback going into the storm. That I'm just waiting on my panel to be delivered to get into that piece. Coming in here, sketching out what's going on with the lower part. I'm just doodling right now. Rose, would love to see you do a color study live. Yeah, I actually definitely want to. I need to learn how to do the iPad better for color. Because I used to draw on the iPad when it first came out, but I would only do transparencies. and didn't really have the same flow of looking realistic. And I want to try and figure out how to make the iPad look more real so that it can mimic what it is we do in real life as painters. Because I think that's more helpful to kind of see that correlation rather than something that's digital or looks digital. So that's for me. I'm kind of trying to learn how to do that stuff. I'm not a great digital realistic painter yet. I will be. I believe it. I believe in myself. I can do it. I'm just smart enough to figure out stuff. Rachel goes, the unclaimed baggage store online. People leave tablets in their luggage all the time. That is amazing. Is stuff really affordable? I want to get a new iPhone. I want to buy like just an old iPhone. iPhones are great for filming here on YouTube. And I use my iPhone for the videos where I shoot the wider screen of what's behind me and everything. And I use my iPhone because the camera is really great. But I hate having to put my iPhone there all the time. If I had just a cheap camera, or a cheap iPhone, I could just connect. I got to do that. I'm going to write that down because that's gold. It's really funny. That actually reminds me, when we were traveling this summer, my wife actually left her backpack, which had her iPad in it, right after we got off the plane. We had a transfer, what do you call it, layover, and we're sitting there at the bar having dinner, and she's like, "Where's my backpack?" And we were able to use the Find My app to unclaimed baggage. I'd be afraid to get an iPad off that though. You don't know what people have on their things. Yeah, so we used the Find My app and we ran back. It was in Chicago. It's just very, very vivid memory of that. But we got it. We got her bag. We just bought her a new backpack too. So again, I'm still on the same layer for everything, which is kind of cool. That's probably what I'll learn when I do the painting, is that you shouldn't be on the same layer. My son has been doing digital art at college now, at Savannah College of Art and Design. I'm waiting for him to teach me how to do all this stuff. Need more. Very light touch here on the Apple Pencil. This gets a little darker. I'm just going to start at the top of the sketch and just gently think about what's getting darker and lighter. So just a really quick break in. If you like this content, feel free to like and subscribe. I do drawing like this every Wednesday morning. And if I'm not here on a Wednesday, I'll tell you guys. But everyone on the Patreon, you can join my Patreon page. It's pretty active. I post once or twice a day, pretty much, content that I find interesting, that is kind of almost behind the scenes stuff that you guys see on the YouTube stuff for free. It's a great way to support my channel. YouTube is a lot of work. It's a lot of fun work because I'm doing what I'm doing, art related, but it doesn't pay very well. Not yet. It's going to. But the Patreon's been really, really amazing and supportive. This edge is softer, and it really allows me to be able to do every Wednesday drawing. Take an hour or two and sketch with you guys. What prep work do I do before painting? Oh, so yeah, the prep work. I did all these sketches to show the collector, and they gave me their idea of what they were thinking, and I was able to kind of sketch out some ideas. And then from there, we kind of settled on a composition. And then I did a color study. I just did a digital color study. It wasn't really anything really spectacular at all, and it was more for myself. and then they okayed it. They paid the deposit. Always take 50% of your cut. Now, I'm worked through a gallery with this. A friend of mine has a gallery in Santa Fe called Acosta Strong. My friend Carlos is amazing. And so he got the commission for me. So he gets usually with commissions, I usually do a 60-40 split with the gallery because they're custom paintings. So you should be paid more as an artist. A lot of information. And then, this is all prepping. You were just saying, just do you gesso the painting? Actually, I'm going to be doing an alla prima here pretty soon of my friend Burton Silverman for fun. I've always wanted to paint him, and I'm going to be posting that video where I gessoed a panel, and I'm just prepping the panel with, I use a wash of raw umber and ultramarine blue to paint into on that, but I'm exploring different ones to try out. I'm using the wrong, I should be using an eraser here, not pencil. And so that's a video that's going to be upcoming that I'm gonna show the prep. Rodney, stay tuned. I got you covered. It's funny, like the Patreon page is basically technical, and also how do you survive as a painter, as well as what I think about philosophy-wise and why I paint and who I paint. Everything that I go through as an artist, essentially I share. Why not? I want to be the teacher that I needed when I was starting out. I want to be that for you guys. And it's not everyone's cup of tea. You know, I paint differently than probably a lot of people want to paint or whatever. You know, but I have been able, I don't know how, knock on wood, to survive financially and do pretty well. And have a very, I always say I'm not rich, but I have a very rich life. Being able to travel and paint and spend all day in my studio, hanging out with my dog. And my wife gets to do the same thing, so we travel and kind of do the same thing together. And started from nothing, you know? Not nothing, my father helped out when I was going to college. He had saved some money to help me out, but moved to New York with nothing. Never took a dime from him after that, and just survived as a painter. Got a real job for a little bit, but then transitioned full time. Blah, blah, blah. I'm going to do a career video someday. Tiffany Mang says she usually stays on the same layer, maybe. Okay, I'm going to check her out too. Thanks, Constance. I need to do a deep dive on YouTube videos on how to work full color better. Because the cool thing about working, doing videos like these with the iPad is that my hand doesn't get in the way, my head doesn't get in the way. It's easier to film because we're doing it just live, right? Now lives, though, however, are notoriously bad on YouTube. They don't get any views at all, unfortunately. Whereas if I did this as a lesson, it would probably get at least 3,000 or 4,000 views, which is amazing. Versus doing lives, which get maybe like 500 views, maybe 1,000 if you're lucky. And I figured it'd be cool to just do this as I don't care about the views I get, but it would be kind of great to grow an audience live so you guys can ask questions, and that helps to shape the conversation, you guys. You know, it helps me to understand the audience of who's even looking at my videos or why. So I learned so much from hanging out, as well as learning about Bernini. I'm a sponge. This gets a little softer. Please, on the career video, I'm restarting as a painter and would love to know how you got into traveling teaching, especially. Yeah, so I was at the Art Students League working only from models for 5 or 6 years. Again, responsibility is hard because at that point I didn't have a kid. I was married. I've been married twice. this last one's going to stick forever. And my ex-wife was really amazingly supportive. We just didn't get along as a couple, but there was something I got to give her props for, that she was always supportive of me being a painter, and arranging our lives so that I could work. And she's also an artist. She was an art teacher, and so I appreciate her being there to support me early on. And so I had that so it's definitely not, the support of others is super helpful, but it's also hard because a lot of people that will love you will be like, well, why don't you get a job doing something that makes a lot of money? And so it's hard for people to believe in you as well, even though they love you. They just want to help. And the concept of being a painter and making a living or a good living is something that's foreign for a lot of people, because there's type A, there's like an A path and a B path. Like, how can you make money selling paintings? Like, who cares? I ask myself that a lot. Who cares about paintings of Holocaust survivors to be able to help to support that project? And a lot of those paintings haven't sold. But there's an exhibition that I pulled together that's really, I think, important to tell these stories of the people I paint. So it's also this idea of balancing what you can sell, like, to people that they want to buy, maybe cowboys, who knows, hopefully. And those are so fun to paint, with your enjoyment of making the painting and finding, I call it artistic nourishment in what it is that you're creating, which is, and these cowboy series I got to paint a different way than I used to. I used different imprimaturas, so I made the process more interesting for myself. And some of that's going to stick with my main process because I liked how it worked. I liked the flowness of it. I liked the use of different color palette than I usually do. It was so helpful. And so on this new commission I'm doing, this portrait commission, it's on the easel right now, I actually did a different approach than I usually do. So we're constantly, Bob Dylan says, artists are always in a constant state of becoming, right? So we're always becoming different artists. And I like to think of this Japanese concept called Kaizen, which always means constant improvement. So you want to think about that with your work. Every painting you do, you want to be improving constantly. For me, I want to constantly improve these drawings, but I talk too much and I can't concentrate on my sketch. Or I want to share the history, or I got to get better at sharing the history of these pieces. Because remember, I don't know if you guys were here from the very beginning, but you want to be in front of these paintings and be able to brag to your friends, be like, oh yeah, did you know that this piece was actually given to Catherine, the Queen of Sweden at the time after Bernini died? I know that now. I'm going to be pretending to be the know-it-all guy when I see this. I'm not even sure where this is actually located. It must be hard to paint works that you are doing for money versus what you want to paint. It's funny, like, I don't think of these, living out here in the Southwest now for almost 10 years, like, I love Western painting. I love Maynard Dixon. I love Blumenschein, all these painters. And I love my friends' paintings that do Western stuff, like Logan Hajej and Mark Majori and Jeremy Lipking when they do Western stuff. I don't have a problem putting my ideas into doing a theme that my friends are doing amazingly, so I don't have a problem with that at all. I think it's like, in even commissions, I guess because they come to me and they know what I do and what I want to do and what I'm passionate about. And so the commissions tend to be things I want to paint. I don't think there's anything I do that I don't want to paint, hopefully. So I don't know if it's bad. I'm trying to make sure I don't miss anyone's questions here. This is awesome. So what are we at? We're at an hour and a half. Let's learn a little bit about Bernini now. So it was really interesting. So the Queen, like we said, so Bernini died. I'm always interested how this painting ended up where. And this painting, if you guys go to Rome, is actually housed in the Basilica of San Sebastiano, Fiore La Mura in Rome. I have the worst Italian pronunciations. That's why I haven't done Caravaggio yet. But Basilica of San Sebastiano, Fiore La Mura in Rome. And how it got there was really cool. It was the attribution and the whereabouts were pretty uncertain for a while, for centuries. And we're talking centuries here, which is crazy. This was done in the 17th century, the 1600s. And it was not really attributed to Bernini until they found records that it was. And so they finally found it, and it was rediscovered in the 20th century. And they finally gave attribution to him fairly recently. So, and we all know, like, so Bernini died in 1680, and so he worked on this almost until probably his death, you know. And he, and I think we talked about this when we talked about Bernini and Pope Innocent X, was that he was actually born in Naples. Have you guys ever been to Naples? Amazing town, crazy town. Don't get killed in that town. Don't get killed in any town. But I almost got run over so many times in Naples. I'm just going to a little sketch here a little bit. From the Motorini, kids on motorcycles that are just like roaming the town. Luckily didn't have anything stolen at all, but did almost... I always thought of like Naples as like a modern day pirate town. There's like sculptures of skulls in front of churches, and everything just has this kind of pirate vibe to it. It's right on the water. Pretty amazing. I was there with my buddy Alex Leal, who is a good friend of mine, and if you've taken a workshop with me in New York, he's always my assistant at the Art Students League. Like, kind of, now I think about it, he was the first person to film me do a demo back in like 2006, or actually maybe even earlier, when I first started teaching at the Salmagundi Club in New York. I did a portrait demo for my class I taught there, and he filmed it with those old tapes back in the day. He had a camcorder that had little like tapes. And anyway, he was on a grant from the Art Students League to study in Italy, and I was there. I don't remember. I think I was there bumming around. I think I had a grant or something, and I just stayed in Italy for an extra month, sleeping on people's couches that I knew that were at the Florence Academy at the time, in Florence and in Rome and stuff. I know. Sounds cool, right? It must be nice. I used to take advantage of any time I got to Europe to stay there as long as I could. This is really amazing through here. And mostly the teaching places has been my my way to travel. That said, my wife and I, Shayna, and I are teaching again in Urbino, Italy, coming up in I think September of next year. I think that's what we have it set up for. We had such a blast last time, literally hanging out in Raphael's bedroom and in his house where he grew up. It's so freaking cool. And what's really neat about Raphael's bedroom, if you guys have ever been there, or in his house, is that they used to, there's these marble seats that are right by the window in Raphael's home that are facing the window. And so what they would do is that another person across the street would have their marble chair up against a window, and they would gossip back and forth about people in the town. And that's how they would talk and hang out with their friends, was from window to window. And it was kind of neat to see in the hallway, essentially, or the couple rooms right before you get to Raphael's bedroom, the window where his family would get news and whatever, share news. I say gossip, it's just people talking. I don't know if you guys have read Sapiens at all, and they talk about how gossip was actually a useful form of communication and news sharing back in the day. Great book, Sapiens. If you can find it and read it. I'm about to read the same author. His name's escaping me right now. It wrote a book called Nexus, and I'm about to read that next. Constantly reading. And actually also, as a painter, books on tape are amazing ways to delve into things while you're painting and focusing. Because painting becomes pretty intuitive over time. That's what we want. We want our drawings to be intuitive so that we're making these split-second decisions, essentially, of is this lighter or darker? Just emotionally, just following our emotional, I always call it emotional instincts. Because there's not a lot of rationality behind what we choose to do when we see something versus what we do within a sketch. Like, I'm drawing this area right through here. I'm emotionally responding to this maybe being a little bit darker in comparison. And so I just know to knock that back darker. And so the tools of how do I get that to be darker, how do I get that to be redder, warmer, cooler, more chroma, becomes intuitive, whereas we can really focus on the question at hand, is that darker or lighter? Like simple questions, but as we become better and just have more experience, we just become more adept at being able to multitask while we do this. His nose, I don't have any of the structure of nose. Let's do that now. Show you guys. I don't even know what time it is. We've been going an hour and 36 minutes. So I'm going to go up until 11. So another like 20 minutes or so. Work on the nose, kind of get into some of the detail stuff, like the upper lid is kind of disconnected right now. But it's really a lot of fun to sketch this with you guys. Susan says that she misses the Art Students League. Had an art show there. Had to leave when they towed my car. That's New York City for you. They're right. The Art Students League is right by Columbus Circle. Stretch. I should just call this hanging out in David's studio for an hour or so while he just talks and talks and talks. I should have guest artists come on and draw with me. That would be fun. Actually, my friends have this drawing group that they do online. Maybe I can snag some people from that to come and sketch with me on Wednesday mornings. Hopefully this is a decent time. Being in New Mexico, it's like kind of in between. It's really bad, I guess, for folks in Europe. So Sweden, I don't even know what time it is in Sweden. Kim, I guess you said you just got off work. Is it like 7 hours difference, maybe more? I said I was going to get into the nose. Sorry. Let's get into that nose. I'm going to move up the reference here. Renewal goes, I really appreciate your generosity, sharing your time and knowledge with all of us. I appreciate you guys caring, right? All I would say is just pay it forward to artists that you know that you can help out. We're all in different points in this journey as artists. And I know that I have friends that are artists that are just absolutely blow my mind with what they do. And I learned so much from them and watching them on social media and everything. You should all check out Sean Cheatham is doing live streams now. Jeremy Lipking posts videos of him painting all the time, or even just varnishing stuff. And I learn a ton from even just seeing their in progress paintings. I'm like, ooh, that's the color that he used as an underlayer for a painting, for an imprimatura. And so I think that's there's so many bad things about the internet, but let's think of the good things, is this idea that we can share and it's affordable for folks. My idea is always that my Patreon could be $60 a year for people to join, and making that affordable, $5 a month, for a year, versus having to charge people like, I don't know, full art instruction for a lot more money. Just making things affordable. I want to reach more people at a less price point, which having the support over there helps me to do the YouTube videos, which are free for everybody, which is awesome. I'm just very appreciative. And I mean, and selfishly, I get to sketch and learn about this stuff. So this is like no real skin off my back. I just need to make sure I'm available on Wednesday mornings. I don't know if it's going to happen when I'm traveling for teaching gigs, but I'm going to try. And it's only an hour a week. And there's so much to delve into. When you think about the lesser artists that we can do, I'm thinking Domenico Feti. Just saw a painting of his in Venice that was really mind-blowing at the Academy there. Actually, I should post. I took so many photos of there, the Tiepolo. I'm going to post those probably today on the Patreon page. I keep way too dark. I post a lot of. We talked about Kath Kolowitz last week, and I had all these photos from the exhibition that she had at the MoMA that I took, and I posted those over there on the Patreon page right after I got off the channel. And I posted Bouguereau's when my wife and I were lucky to be in Paris for a day, and we were able to go to our favorite museums, the Musée d'Orsay, which is probably everyone's favorite museum, and I was able to get some really cool pictures of Bouguereau. One of my favorite technicians as a painter. I don't love what he painted, but I love how he painted. It was so amazing. So much to learn about skin tones from him. But I was able to post those photos. So if you're on the Patreon, do I post on there too much? Because I don't know if you guys get an email every time I post. And so I don't want to flood people's or spam people on there, but I think there's maybe like a way to turn off emails or something. I don't know. Oh, I'm missing some people. Diana, you've always been a great teacher. Aw, thanks, Diana. You've always been a great student and teacher. You gotta take another workshop, Diana. I miss hanging out. And I need to see all your photos from Halloween, your Halloween pics. That's what I miss the most. Raynola, paying it forward indeed. Oh, that's cool. So Raynola runs a small mentorship program for younger artists. Now that she's retired from engineering, she mentors. That's amazing. If you're a young artist, look up Raynola. You can put a link to it if you can in the chat here. I think people can see the chat when it's recorded. That'd be awesome. Oh, no problem, Mariah. Kath Kolowitz is amazing. Yeah, I got to draw her self-portrait last week, and learned a lot. See, there's really beautiful reflected light in the eye here. Let's really delve into I haven't really gotten into the structure of this eye in a very sophisticated way yet. Let's make that kind of our full thing here. I'm using, again, the reference from the big screen. I used to print out the references, but they weren't, it was annoying because I'm just on my little desk here. There's that underplane here of the canthus and the tear duct meet. The canthus is the underplane of the eye, and this comes out, and this is very bright and very straight edged. Cuts into this shape right there, so I'm going to just go really, maybe too bright on it, and then we have this patch of light through here. We were teaching a private student in the studio last week, and so last week's workshop or session ended abruptly because I heard them coming in the door, Shayna and our friend, our student. I was like, oh, gotta get off. So overpainting that. It's too light, but I'm going to glaze it into the space a little bit. And also very light touch on the Apple Pencil to think about the ball of the eye and how that merges into here. I'm going on the light side right now versus thinking about how it's darker with it. So I'm using the eraser to cut into what we have essentially. And then over here, we have a little patch of light. Looks pretty good. I have this second skin over my tattoo to heal it, and it's sticking to my leg. TMI, right? I could not do this on TV because I just say whatever I'm thinking. My arm is a little sore. This can be a little, okay, so now I'm going to come in with the pencil now. This is a little straighter. I'm going to slide just over a little bit. I have my paper towel roll, or paper towel, my tape roll here to make sure I'm straight up and down here as I go up. I want to make sure my angles are right because that edge right there should be good. Okay, cool. You want to make sure your angles are aligned with your reference. I'm excited to studio today though. I'm going to start this little alla prima of my friend Bert Silverman, who's an amazing, amazing painter. One of my favorite painters of all time. I have an interview I'm still editing this interview with him as well. I have a lot of content I got to get in on. Interviewing Burton. I have an interview from 2016 that I interviewed him in his studio. While we were traveling this summer to teach, I was able to do a little bit of the editing on the trains. I think it's like a 2-hour long video. Going into that eye. That, and I'm doing, actually this is kind of fun later today. I'm doing a voiceover for my documentary on survivors. We're still doing this documentary called Facing Survival. It's basically follow me as I go and I paint these survivors all over the world. And we've almost got complete funding. We have enough funding where we're kind of redoing our edit to be more entertaining, I guess. A bit more engaging for a wider audience. And then I love this brow ridge comes up a little higher, up and over. And our intro is really cool. We actually filmed our intro with this guy, Danny Motor. I don't know if you guys know him in the film industry. He's an amazing director of photography. And so we did this intro and kind of motif vibe thing where I literally brought all my equipment actually 1 year ago. We filmed this last year to a film studio, and we filmed me working on all the paintings. Kind of cool. But I'm voiceovering that today. Trying to get better at voiceover. You guys saw the YouTube shorts? That's my attempt at trying to voiceover stuff. This gets a little darker. That looks better. Let's see what it looks like from far away. Getting there, getting there. You can tell that, see, the ball of the eye is a little too light right now, so I want to knock that back a little bit. Again, being able to force myself to see it from farther away is helpful. This area gets a little darker. Awesome, guys. I think I'm going to kind of wind down here a little bit. I want to thank Bernini for being so inspiring. So far, he's been drawn twice. I was thinking, I might want to draw do you guys know the Bruno sculpture in the Campo del Fiore it's kind of not an unknown sculptor. I think his name's Ferrari, which is kind of neat. But it's such an amazing sculpture that we always see when we go to Rome, and it's of a guy that was like a monk that believed in science, and he got burned alive in that piazza. And the sculpture, there's a hooded man that's really like mysterious and cool. And actually, my friend Brian found some type of mold or something of a sculpture and was able to mold it. Actually, he found like a maquette of it, was able to mold it, and he produced some bronzes of that sculpture. And that's like my dream, is to get a bronze of that sculpture because it's so awesome. But I was thinking about drawing that, even though it doesn't really have a lot of art history. Maybe. I don't know. Awesome, guys. So here's our drawing for this week. This will be posted on the channel as soon as it's over, so you guys can rewatch or share. Again, just softening up some of these edges here. This gets really bright. I might paint on this or draw on this a little bit more tonight in front of the TV. So fun. Actually, let me come into this side over here, darken it up. That's weird. Making weird. Just unifying this area. Awesome, guys. Yeah, that's our sketch for this week. Episode 5, Salvator Mundi by Bernini, located in Rome in a small little chapel in Rome. Yeah, it is so hard to stop because the idea of Kaizen, right? As I work, I start to see things better. I start to see like, well, maybe this edge could be better over here, or I didn't address anything over on, let's see, this side. You know what I mean? So I could get in and do that, and then the subforms and all that stuff. But we've been going for almost 2 hours now. Again, I appreciate everybody that's come on here live to ask questions and everything, and I'm excited to share all of these pieces from art history with you guys every Wednesday morning at 9 a.m. I have to do the obligatory. I don't even know if that's even what that even means, that word. Just want to say thank you to everybody, and if you like this content and want to help support it, all you got to do is leave a like and subscribe and comment. Comments are great, good, bad, anything. They all help the algorithm. They get my channel out there. And yeah, thanks, guys. This is so much fun. It'd be fun to put these in a book, print them out when they get better. Awesome. Thanks, guys, for everyone that joined it live. And thanks again to everyone who's on Patreon. The reference will be on Patreon to download for free for members. And awesome. I appreciate everybody over there who supports the channel. Awesome, guys. Thanks, everybody. Have a good night. A good day. I think it's, yeah, I'm not good at doing this live stuff. Awesome. Hey, Steven, how's it going? Constance, Diane, it's great to see you again. See you. Awesome. Take care, everybody. Everyone draw well. Okay? See you next week.